Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to another explainer, where we take complex, powerful ideas and really just break them down so you can get to the core of them. Today, we are unpacking a profound framework from a text called The Architecture of Shared Humanity. It lays out 5 actionable solutions to hate. We live in a world where division often feels completely manufactured, right? Like it's built by design just to keep us apart. But this source argues something really powerful. If hate can be engineered, then shared humanity can be built too. So let's take a look at the blueprint.
Here is the blueprint we're working with today. First, organizing our communities. Second, demanding responsible media. Third, educating the next generation. Fourth, standing for universal justice. Fifth, using social media responsibly. And finally, choosing humanity over hate.
So let's kick things off with number 1, organizing our communities. The source material is quick to point out that dismantling hatred, it doesn't just happen by magic. Communities actually have to organize. We're talking about interfaith gatherings, neighborhood discussions, cultural exchange events, and joint social service programs. It happens when neighbors literally just sit down together. It happens when people from totally different walks of life pack boxes at a local food bank side by side, working toward the exact same goal. Which brings us to this incredible quote: "Human interaction destroys manufactured hatred." I mean, really think about that. Hatred usually relies on this abstract, generalized idea of the other, right? But direct, face-to-face human connection, it totally shatters those false narratives. You simply cannot maintain a manufactured hatred for someone once you actually know their real story. Moving up to the institutional level with number 2, demanding responsible media. We see media houses sensationalizing identities all the time just to monetize hate. But what we desperately need is ethical journalism. The source explicitly points out that a criminal should just be called a criminal. They absolutely should not be held up as the poster child for an entire religion or race. Conflating one person's actions with a whole demographic is, honestly, a massive driver of the division we see today. Which brings us to this super important statement. Ethical journalism reduces hates instead of monetizing it. Media companies face this huge financial and moral choice every single day. Sure, outrage generates clicks, and yeah, clicks equal cash. But the cost to society, it's astronomical. Responsible media has a duty to report the facts without cashing in on the very prejudices that tear our neighborhoods apart.
Which naturally leads us into number 3, educating the next generation. Schools act as safe havens, and what goes on in those classrooms is absolutely crucial. We're talking about explicitly teaching empathy, diversity, critical thinking, and shared human values. These aren't just fluffy, feel-good concepts, you guys. They're active, teachable skills. We always think of reading and math as the core curriculum, but teaching kids how to understand and relate to one another is just as foundational to a functioning society. Empathy is a muscle, and it literally has to be exercised every day. Actually, I want to slow down for a second here, because this concept is just so fundamental. Children are not born racist. Hatred is taught. Prejudice is not some inherent human trait. It's soaked up from the environment, from hushed conversations, from systemic biases, and from that sensationalized media we were just talking about. It is 100% a learned behavior. But here is the really optimistic flip side to that reality. And what is taught can also be untaught. If prejudice is learned, it can absolutely be unlearned. Our school systems, our homes, our communities, they're the key engines for reversing this cycle. We literally have the power to break the chain of generational hatred just by changing what we teach our kids. Okay, let's look at number 4, standing for universal justice. Building on everything so far, the source points out that Muslim-led initiatives, and really all community groups, must stand up for vulnerable populations across the board. We're talking about oppressed minorities, refugees, workers, women, and victims of violence everywhere. Notice how that list doesn't restrict itself to one specific group. It demands a commitment to universal justice rather than just narrow tribal justice. Because think about it, selective humanity makes justice weak. If we only speak up for our own people, if we only care when our specific group is targeted, the whole concept of justice basically crumbles. It's not real justice if it only applies to you. But standing for everyone, that makes justice powerful. True humanity just isn't selective. It requires us to advocate for the rights of others just as fiercely as we fight for our own.
Next up, number 5, using social media responsibly.
Look, we all know social media can be a total minefield of misinformation. So the source provides this incredibly simple yet crucial 3-step checklist for everyone before forwarding any potentially hateful content. Step 1. Pause. Just take a breath. Step 2. Verify. Ask yourself, is this actually true? And step 3. Think. What is the actual impact of sharing this? Pause, verify, think. It's a quick checklist, but those 3 steps can literally stop a viral wave of hate dead in its tracks.
One fake video can destroy harmony, but one truthful voice can save it. That is a wild amount of power in our pockets, right? The immense responsibility of the digital age doesn't just sit with big tech companies. It's on every single one of us holding a smartphone, especially young creators who are tasked with building content that inspires dialogue instead of division. You have the power to shape the digital world. Use it to build, not to break down.
And that brings us to our final point, number 6, choosing humanity over hate.
This is where the rubber meets the road. We've got to call out the false justifications. Hatred often sneaks in, disguised as patriotism. Racism loves to hide behind the mask of security. The world absolutely does not need these dangerous, manufactured disguises. When discrimination uses comfortable words like patriotism or security, it gets super insidious. We have to be sharp enough to see right through those masks. What the world actually needs: courage, conscience, compassion. These 3 virtues are the final, essential pillars of this whole architecture of shared humanity. It takes real courage to go against the grain. It takes an active conscience to recognize when something is deeply wrong. And it takes immense compassion to actually care enough to do something about it.
Because true strength is not about dominating people. True strength is protecting human dignity. The strongest answer to hate is never more hate. The strongest answer is communities actively choosing humanity, even after facing hatred themselves. Retaliation? That's easy. But choosing to protect human dignity unconditionally is the absolute highest form of strength a society can show. Which leaves us with this haunting final quote to close out today's explainer. Because silence may protect comfort today, but justice protects humanity tomorrow. If the ideas we unpacked today struck a chord with you, share this. Start those conversations in your own community. Challenge prejudice when you see it. Stand for justice even when it makes you super uncomfortable. So I'll leave you with this. When you're faced with division, are you just protecting your own comfort,